Hello, this is Georgie Dragonfly, and you are here in Cosmic Heart Conversation Podcast with Esther Joy, who is now going to join us in this space. Welcome, Esther. Hello, and welcome yourself in.
Hello, thank you so much, Georgie. I feel the welcome love and energy. Yeah, I'm Esther Joy, and I'm honored to be invited onto your podcast to talk a little bit about light language on my Instagram at Good.Vibes.Delivery. I am a chakraologist. I like to share light language activations and also a lot of information about the chakras to practically balance them. So, I'm super excited for today's chat and thank you again for having me.
Thank you. It's an absolute joy. It literally really is. We've got the energy of joy just moving through, and I can feel it, and I'm sure everyone else can. You just really do emanate joy. It's amazing, incredible. So where does it start for you, Esther?
Oh boy. Well, thank you for mentioning that. I feel like when people share like, oh, like you emanate joy, there was a time I think in childhood where I felt a lot of pressure. I had to like be very joyful. I was the middle child of five and I felt like I have to stand out and be like super positive. And for a while I was homeschooled, so I didn't really have many friends, and that's when I really started getting more into imagination and understanding my own soul expression. But when I did go to high school as a freshman, I remember this pressure of being happy all the time. Eventually, that led to me realizing how I was looking for other souls to deeply connect with, and I just wasn't really finding that as much as I had thought I would. Which led to kind of a depression because I realized, like, oh my gosh, all these people are not really sharing their true feelings, and I can feel them, but they have this mask that is quite literally kind of hiding what's going on. So that is when I learned about toxic positivity. And that is when I learned about the importance of authentically sharing your emotions and feelings so that you can actually feel what you're wanting to feel, but you have to feel the other things as well in order for that to be true. So yeah, I love being able to be in a space where I've been able to kind of create an account to hopefully help other people. Not, I don't really say like, oh, like you're faking positivity. No, but just get more in tune with those authentic emotions and understand what emotions are. Cause I think we hear them that saying a lot, emotions equal energy in motion. So yeah.
Mm, yeah, incredible. So there wasn't necessarily a spiritual awakening, would you say, or was it just, or did that happen through the depression? It was like a realization of how you really felt and were feeling deep within.
Yeah. Yeah, like as a child, I will say that I started speaking light language at a young age.
Mhm.
I was homeschooled and I didn't see anyone doing it in my family at that time. And my mother, she homeschooled us and super strict, religious, loving woman, but she definitely had a bit of a fear, I think, surrounding these things. So as a child, when I started, I watched like Sleeping Beauty and I thought like this is so silly. All of this could have been avoided if they all had like a universal language. And then I started like experimenting in my heart. I was like, there is a universal language. And I would have dreams of people speaking in light language in every day, like the cashier would be speaking in light language and understand. It was like very odd for a child. But that's when I started experimenting with it for myself. And at first, I would not speak out loud for fear of judgment and fear of what will my family think? How will they take this? And I don't think they'll take it well. So I'm going to like keep this all inside. And yeah, there was a lot of fear there for a while and having to face that. And it wasn't really until I would say around 3 years ago did I feel comfy, like, did I see other people sharing it and saying it out loud? And I was like, oh my gosh, I can speak this out loud. I can actually share it. Like there are people there that are understanding. And I think that was a big opening for me personally.
Wow, getting that acceptance in the community of others, that are, and that's a synchronicity, isn't it? So when you see others kind of go, oh, okay, like what I'm doing isn't so strange. It's more than just me.
Yes. Oh
Mm,
my goodness. I was like so nervous as a child that if I spoke out loud in this language, they would put me in the insane asylum like immediately because it's like, what am I doing? I'm speaking in another language. But when I started seeing other people doing it, deep in my heart, I was like, wow, now is the time. Like I feel like I'm hearing them. And it was just this moment of understanding, like, especially with everything going on in the world, where I feel like our form of expression has been suppressed more and more. It was like this opening of, okay, it's really time to allow that inner being that I was born with that's been talking to me and I felt was holding and, kind of hiding. It's time to share that with other
mm.
people. It's time to really connect with other souls on that level.
Yeah, excellent. Because did it come through in other forms as well, other than just speaking?
Yeah, so I am a artist. I love to create art, and at that time I probably have a sketchbook of the language that was coming through and during this time, it was really intense for me once it started opening up. Like, immediately, galactic portals made themselves known. I was hearing other entities, I was hearing people's higher selves. It was overwhelming. I felt overwhelmed. But I would draw, and that would, for me, would be a form of therapy to kind of allow myself to see what's going on. Was really getting to the point where is this all in my head? I would have these visions of people saying like this is a game and then I remember my brother came, he knocked on my door and he said, it's time for dinner. And then he said, I'm playing the game. And this was after I had like three or four instances where other people would just be mid sentence talking and then say, we're playing the game too. And at that point, I was like, this is a little bit weird. Okay,
Mm.
let me ask my brother after we're done eating. And I'm just like looking at him eating at the dinner table. And then afterwards, I ask him, like, what did you mean when you said, like, this is a game? And he didn't remember saying that. So I realized, like, okay, maybe it's time for me to go deeper. So a lot of this was just sitting and meditating and getting in tune with my soul and then drawing what I felt and what I see. So for a while, I would just paint a card every day and write a poem on the back of it to allow myself the opportunity to kind of interpret what the painting was saying.
Mm.
But yeah.
That's cool. That's like your own little oracle deck that you're creating for yourself.
Yes, they're
And
like,
you got them there. Wow.
yes.
They're amazing.
Um, But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like it helps so much when we see light language as not just like the words, but like you're
Mm.
sharing, like everything is kind of a form of light language if
Mm.
we understand how to perceive it and sense what is beyond the surface. So
Mhm.
it really has opened my eyes though, especially with the voice. I have grown up with a lot of vocal problems in terms of speaking out, and I grew up with like vocal cord displacement during the time I was most depressed in high school. No, given there,
Mhm.
I am so thankful during that time that I listened to my body and kind of asked, like, why is this happening? Why can't I breathe at certain times? Why do I feel like I'm drowning?
Mm.
And going a little deeper into it, I realized like I was cutting off my communication with people and, asking them. I think in society, we don't really ask, people in like public settings, like, are you okay? Are you truly feeling all right? If there's something in your soul or in your mind or body that you want to express, even if it's negative, please give yourself that space to express it. These are not the things that, and as a kid, I did get in trouble for doing so. And I grew up homeschooled, and the only form of social activity I had with other people was the auxiliary of the Air Force. So there just wasn't that much expression really there. It was more like obey orders, give orders, but never actually, how do you feel? How are you doing? What's going on inside there?
Mm.
Um, so yeah, like light language has definitely been such a huge catalyst for me personally being able to get back in touch with my emotions that I
Mm.
had distanced myself from in the past, and other people, connecting with them in a way that as a child I would dream of. Like, I'm so thankful for this conversation because it's just let my childhood dreams come true, being able to share and connect.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you've had that visionary of it as well. That's like I've not really heard of people doing that. Although actually, well, I have heard people message me going, "You were speaking to me in light language in my dreams last night." I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." They obviously got like a little activation in their in their dreams. But yeah, it's all coming true. We're really all starting to connect a lot more and broaden this out and make it more accessible for others, and knowing that this modality, if you want to call it that, it's just an expression of our innate ability to just be in clear communication with the divine, with nature, and just being in sync with our hearts and in flow. And yeah, it's so beautiful when we can be like that. And obviously, where you had this throat thing, I guess that this is also something that came into discovering about chakras as well for you.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Well, I like to share this a lot. And on my YouTube at Esther Joy, I've talked about how there was a time where I would struggle with expressing myself, but it was also during a time where I had a porn addiction. And I did not think these two things were related to my sacral chakra, full of emotions and how I connected with people, and the way I was expressing myself and how I was actually judging myself and others. So there was such this connection, and like they say, like your larynx, or like that little part of your throat that actually allows the vibrations to go through, it looks very similar to the opening of your womb. And these chakras for me have been a really big role in understanding, like, if one is imbalanced, the other is going to be imbalanced. If there's excess amount of energy here, then there has to be a deficient amount of energy somewhere else. And of course I didn't know that at the time. I was just kind of struggling and cutting myself off from people for fear of how I was actually feeling, and looking for something that wasn't actually authentic connections and that sensual nature that the sacral chakra kind of craves when it comes to other people. But I was finding it in these kind of artificial videos and like media that really was not, it was just kind of trapping me more and isolating me more from humans and communicating with them in that way. So again, I think that has been a really big, now looking back at it, like I'm kind of thankful I had to go through that not so good time, because it taught me so much about myself and how this energy is being balanced, and also how I express myself in these ways, and opening it up in a way that I find pure. And it allowed me to kind of identify which was impure or perverted of what the pure energy really was. So yes.
Yeah.
Matrix
Yeah,
deprogramming.
yeah, definitely. So that, we have to, go into sometimes these experiences to truly understand them. If we was to just fully just be out there and you kind of not be in that society of and and experience any of those constructs, then how do we really know what they're like? I think I've
Mm.
even often like explored like watching certain like reality TV shows, and you watch and you're like, whoa, like I can feel the addictiveness of this, because it's like there's nothing really going on here. But
My
yeah,
sister's obsessed with
it's
them,
like,
and I'm like, oh my
yeah,
goodness. It
there's this sort of
reminds me very,
attachment. I don't know,
yeah.
it's very unusual, but it's definitely designed in that way. um
Mhm.
so yeah, it's a great ability to be able to come away from that and actually have seen where that was coming into your experience, and how you was able to um oh, lost. So we had a little technical difficulty there in the middle here, but we're going to come back. onto our topic and what we were saying just now, which is quite interesting, of the topic of the matrix and light language.
Yes, absolutely. I think like when we think of the Matrix, or at least when I do, the fun story when I first saw the Matrix was because my parents let a crackhead stay in our house and he gave us the Matrix. Great story, and I watched it when I was a child, never really understood until I started to understand kind of how getting into programming myself and seeing how the way we program things, it's based off of life. It's based off the reflection of life. And we have this innate tendency to want control of the things that we sometimes can't control. Hence why we see the metaverse becoming something so big so people can control every aspect of their life. Now, when I think about light language and its you could say contribution to the matrix, it's very much something that it cannot understand. The matrix, to it is a bug, because it's nowhere. You can't control light language, you know. Many people ask me like, what does that mean? And I say you have to listen to your heart and interpret it through that lens, through your own perspective and understanding of the energy. It is not like I can say 𝗘𝘀𝘁𝗵𝗲𝗿 and that means the same thing for every time I say that. And so that is something that the matrix is threatened by because it's so unpredictable, that obviously it just does not really resonate with that paradigm, which again is why I feel so many people are waking up as they reprogram themselves from the matrix. For me, light language has helped reprogram so much when it comes to the blocks I may have felt, the things that I thought were typically or I needed to do in this lifetime without question. And then taking a step back and tapping into my soul, asking myself those questions, seeing what comes up. And even if I don't understand it in that moment, kind of getting uncomfy with the, out of being out of my comfort zone so that I can more easily maneuver through whatever happens. I believe that we all are kind of in like we are born, and for most of us, we have to go through some level of matrix programming that I feel has been passed down from generation to generation. It's a structure control that humans want to continue to have to make them feel secure. So taking it from that lens, I see light language as a way to allow ourselves to explore what it feels like the unknown, but also still be secure and to have more of that understanding that even if I don't understand this right now, there is a purpose and a reason for it. And if I ask my heart and my soul, my higher self, my guides, God, source, oneness, then they will give me the answer, even if I don't understand it at the time. So that's definitely one thing I wanted to note with the whole idea of the matrix and programming and light language.
Yeah, interesting. It's just like we're coming into that, what some people are saying as well, they're using the word creatrix. So it's like, you're coming from a made system to a creative system. And I suppose that
Mm.
that's what that's what's happening through this, expression of self, through having their own truth and moving in that way and communicating from the heart space. Yeah.
Absolutely. I feel like the heart is such a beautiful place, and I wanted to just connect it to nature because that's what the heart is
Mhm.
all about. It's that universal rhythm that is cycled and connected to nature. And I think us as humans, we see such a kind of disconnect happening, where people may want to speed up the process or slow down the process when we understand that if we just allow ourselves, when we try to do those things, we're going to create energetic blockages because it's just not the time. And so I think it's really beautiful, and light language has kind of assisted me in all of the beautiful souls I meet who express and share and explore light language. They have this almost innate understanding of the divine timing of things and the way that the energy has to flow. So I think that can be difficult when we see so many people kind of stuck in their matrix in one way or another. Nobody is perfect. But when it comes to, hey, like, don't do something we can't understand, fearful, and it's just all of this resistance that we see in the world. And I think that's why there may be some resistance to the souls that feel led to share their light language, but
Mm.
kind of are seeing all of this resistance in the world at this time.
Mm, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I really enjoyed that. And what I would say as well, like, so with you, and how have you come to that understanding with nature, and accepting the light language as a part of that natural part of yourself?
Yeah. Definitely. Well, I had mentioned at the beginning, my mom is an extremely religious, wonderful woman. But of course, when I started really tapping into my gifts and really allowing myself to explore it as a child, even she was worried. She was worried about what she was seeing. And I understand her concern. She grew up with her great grandfather, which was like a witch doctor that cursed people and was not a very nice man. So I understood the fear that she was kind of the blockage that was being present there. And I understood now why I was blessed with the family that I was blessed with. So when I started speaking light language out loud, she would kind of always come up to me and give me a lecture of how, you are gonna summon demons and all of this stuff that, of course, is good to have discernment with. When you're opening a portal, you have the opportunity to be in connection with all of the realms, and you have to have intention. You have to choose very clearly who you are here to connect with and to be clear and focused on that energy. But of course, I think that was a really big thing for me, and one of my biggest fears of, will my family accept me? Will like my friends accept me if I start sharing this unknown tongue? I
Mm.
have heard people, in church, they go into tongues when they're worshiping, and to me it was very similar. The spirit is going through them, and especially with my me being kind of a chakrologist, I'm very interested in how we channel and how the energy channels through us as vessels for all of this beautiful light. So I felt like there was a lot of resistance and fear, to share this. But also when I started sharing it and when my mom was just going on a kind of lecture with me, I remember feeling led and just speaking some words in light language to her. And she stopped talking and she looked at me and I knew and I remember the words. Not the words in light language, but I remember the meaning being like, although you're scared, I promise you that I am being led by God, oneness source. I promise that I am doing this with the highest divine aligned intention. And I understand and acknowledge the fear that you're having surrounding this unknown language and this unknown tongue. And I pray that you will be given comfort in knowing that I am doing this with God guiding me, that I am not just doing this to, I don't know, like hex people. No, that's not the intention. But this is how I truly feel like I can be heard. So I kind of said that in light language, and she just kind of looked at me kind of blankly for a moment, and her energy, like the tone and everything, just kind of went down. And after that, she's never lectured on me again. So I do feel really thankful. And I think when you realize the power that you have, that maybe when these people are coming up or that fear that you have, it's in your control to acknowledge it and to honor it for the message that it may be sharing. Like, hey, maybe if I didn't get that warning, maybe I'd be all crazy and like, doing bad things to people. But I know that's not what I'm here for. And to keep my focus really lasered on what I'm here to do and what messages I'm here to deliver with that light language and those transmissions.
Mm. Whoa, that was a powerful stream of flow. That was amazing.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
yeah, so because that's it. Something you just said there, you were laser focused on your purpose and your mission. You know that what you're meant to be doing, and one thing is, yes, we can say, feel it. You feel it, you understand it on the heart, then you'll know whether it's doing something good or bad because you'll feel it in your system,
Yes.
really. But how did you personally? How did you personally have that realization for yourself? Because having that kind of background, it must have been difficult for you to or not necessarily difficult, but it could be for some people difficult to actually maintain that strength and knowing in yourself. Does the doubt come in for you at any point, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, yeah. I think when I first started beginning sharing my light language, I was horrified. I was like, what if I am? And I realized like those are the thoughts I need to be aware of because that's how the manifestation first starts. It goes into your mind, you think about it, then you feel about what you're thinking about, and then you decide what to do based on how you feel. So I realized like, okay, acknowledge this was a really big time of deprogramming. I realized like light language can be used to deprogram all of these different things, and there is a lot going on in my own personal life with like voodoo and witch doctors actually hitting me up out of the blue, being like sending some really weird kind of interesting messages about my love life, which I did not have at the time. So I was like, this is interesting, sources leading me through it. This is a part of my experience. And I remembered like when I speak, I acknowledge that, okay, source, God, oneness is everything. When I'm speaking, I'm addressing that everything or that consciousness that is the living form of all life and is the source of life. So coming from that place, when I do hear people say, uh, this is not good. I don't really hear that this is much because I feel like within myself when I was doubting what I was doing, was also letting that doubting energy in. And then when I realized like, hey, I can actually address this, and I would start addressing these fears I was having, what if this is not good? What if I don't know what I'm doing? What if this is like hurting people? What if I'm hurting myself? And all of these things. And I realized like, let me address it. Let me actually speak with light language. And I remember learning about neuroplasticity and changing those kind of neural connections I was creating, but also just energetically changing those energetic connections that I was creating and realizing like this is a lesson to remind me that, hey, I'm here for a pure reason. I'm here to understand and discover that. And sometimes that means addressing the darkness so that it can shine more. And so that has been a beautiful journey that sometimes I feel like so blessed to be able to connect with the community and know that there are people that will keep me in check. Like if I'm starting to go off on a tangent, I know that there are souls sent here to be like, hey, Esther, we're here to keep you in check. And I'm like, thank you so much. So, yes, I hear horns now. The angels are speaking, but there was a time where I was just like hearing so much. I was kind of freaking out. I was like, hearing the Galactic Federation coming through, and I was also hearing people's higher selves, and people were saying they're playing the game. There was just so much happening at that time that what other people were saying, and honestly I was just like, okay, this is a game. I can program it to be how I want to, and I'm going to program it the way that the creator that is flowing through me can allow the most life source to flow through me. And that's pretty much it.
Cool. Yeah, you really stuck with it and just knew that those were tests and allowed them to just work through them. Yeah, yeah, we've all had the tests.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah.
I would love to ask like what has a test for you looked like with light language?
Oh, yeah. Interestingly, it's been kind of more just the fact that I've been openly, doing light language stuff, shall we say, in more public places, and I've been approached and judged for what I was doing, and people saying I was doing certain things, and I took it very personally and felt mortified, and because of those insecurities had leaked through, and they saw that they could do that, but again, it's all a divine lesson for me to step further into my power, into who I am, and not allow the outside influences to go, what you're doing is bad, you're not good enough, or you're this or you're that, and actually go, hang on a minute, I was in joy, bliss, excitement, and feeling completely like, in alignment, and hearing these beautiful messages and knowing where I was going and stepping forward. And then for somebody outside to tell me that that was the opposite, that was my initiation to say, actually, they're they're actually not understanding what I'm doing, and they're coming from a space of fear, and I have to stand in myself, in my truth, and what I know to be coming through me and my heart. So yeah, it's kind of brutal, but
Oh,
it can happen. And sometimes it doesn't, if you're lucky. But yeah, if it does, just know it's an experience, isn't it, to move through and to become a better version of yourself, and more aligned with the
mm,
divine part of yourself.
that is so beautiful.
Yeah, thank
And
you for giving me the space.
thank you. Yes, I feel like I would be asking more questions now because that was such a wonderful response and like I resonate with it. I think a lot of people, when we think about the 3D world, they're stuck in the physical, and the physical is predictable and you can understand it. Like, oh, that's a red apple, that's like a yellow ball. All of these things make sense. I can see them, I can touch them, I understand them. But then when you go to the realm of working with spirit, working with source, working with actually expressing and allowing this energy to come through and be heard in the physical, and that's as we are bridges, you know, we're all beautiful rainbow bridges, allowing this energy to come through. Those on the 3D become threatened. This is not something familiar to them. Again, the matrix sees this as a bug because it cannot understand its purpose in the physical. And so this is us taking the spiritual, like you could say, translating it into the physical so that it can be taken back up into the spiritual of those that are wanting to receive it. And so, absolutely, I think we have to have so much compassion for the souls that are genuinely afraid of having anything threaten their physical reality. And I've had friends say, like, if my reality is all a lie, I don't want anybody telling me because I would rather live a lie happy than, know that it's a lie and have to deal with that. And actually hearing somebody say that, it really opened my eyes to when we're doing this work, when we're creating this space of, you could say, divine potential. I like to call it like the light bug, because when somebody is open and their soul is open, you're planting that seed and allowing it to grow. And that's why the Matrix doesn't like it. I feel like that's a part of why we're seeing so much censorship. They know what's going on. They know that every soul here on earth that is feeling led is wanting to express itself more fully. And there's nothing they can really do about it. We can do it telepathically, we can do it energetically, but the physical is still trying to restrict that because they don't understand that this is not even on that realm. And yeah, there's so much compassion for those people when they're in that state of fear and you're sharing something that is for their soul to receive, for them to look beyond the flesh. But yeah,
Mm. Yeah, definitely.
planting those.
It's planting the seeds, and I think because even in like what we would say, like the spiritual community, the New Age community, whatever you want to label, is that there's even limits in these places, and I think that and I'm sure, as we call it, the light language community, Starseed community, as time goes on, we'll always probably find that there's um aspects to it that were maybe not in our highest alignment, and we're evolving. And it's that part of when it comes back to the human experience, because it's actually, we're discovering that through our humanness, through learning that from the human, the actual spiritual concept of, oh, okay, some things that even might seem spiritual aren't necessarily in highest alignment as well. And all those limitations can even be built there because we still believe that there's good and bad, and evil, and if it's not understood, then it's evil. Yet nobody's actually met the divine in a physical formal God. We've depicted God as a man, but it's, who's seen this physical man? Maybe, I don't know. They probably have
Like, yeah.
people that have
Oh
claimed that,
my.
but yeah.
Oh, girl, I've met a couple of them, trust me. And it's really interesting when I've heard people say, I am Yeshua, I'm Yahweh. I'm coming back, and they're sitting on their couch eating potato chips, going live on Instagram, and people believe them. It's kind of interesting, but like, a lot of false prophets towards the end days are going to come. I believe that God is within us, and we understand this. We understand this connection. We understand that God is also pretty much everything. Like the way I define it, it's like they're not nothing. They're everything, and there's nothing that they're not. they're I like to say God is greatest of all dimensions, because it's just something beyond our comprehension while we're here on like the third dimension. Sure, we are seeing this integration of the fifth dimension, but yeah, they're like the greatest of all dimensions. They're just everything. And so when we talk, I believe God's word is living. I think a lot of people look at the Bible and they think like it's be above God's word, or God just stopped talking and after he wrote the book, he told people to write. Like, no, he speaks through each and every soul. Like, he's in every soul. And that source of life is what we are here to experience, and we're here to share this, and I believe connect deeply with one another. Like, that's literally it. I think it's so interesting, and I don't want to go too much on a rant with religion, but I'm so thankful to have a stronger foundation in my faith, in what I believe, like that we are all living source creators here to experience that. Like, Jesus said that people were going to come back. So Jesus was just an example of what every single being can do.
Mhm.
And we're not here to idolize them, which I feel like, I hate to say this, but Christians kind of do. It's kind of like a little cult, and being someone who's Christian and like grown up as that, it's like, that's not the point. It was not to idolize this person. It was to understand the lesson that they're here to share with us, so that we ourselves may be able to grow in understanding and honor each other on that level. So, really interesting. Yeah, you bring that up. And again, it goes like they killed him. Like, they killed Jesus because they were fearful of how connected he was to source. And I think that we can see that on a mini level sometimes when we're sharing our souls, when we're really feeling that oneness, and we see people freaking out because they cannot comprehend that that's possible. Just big compassion, a lot of love to them, and allow that space to be open if they are led, and source does lead them to that.
Yeah, definitely. That's a beautiful, again, another beautiful flow. And, we are coming into a space of more compassion, our hearts are opening up. And, I suppose you're experiencing with the chakras, we're also experiencing an expanded awareness of our chakras. I mean, a good few years ago now, only to mine awareness, maybe others knew more than me even at that time. But my awareness now of root chakras and higher chakras, and this is coming into it, and now we're evolving even chakras into more cosmic experience as well, and extending our awareness of chakras out into that space.
I
And
love.
that's, yeah, where the light language is coming in, even from that, is because we're expanding.
Absolutely. I'm so thankful to be able to study the chakras in correlation to light language,
Mm.
because I feel like it gives a greater understanding of maybe where it comes from and also how to interpret it. Like recently, I did like a little light language for a couple, and I told them, like wherever you feel led to place your hands on the centers, go ahead. And so it was really interesting. We had head heart. So one placed it on their head and the other placed it on their heart.
Mm.
And then we can kind of understand, with the understanding of the chakras, it's like, okay, like they're wanting to see more deeply into this person's heart. It's very beautiful to be able to, like, that's so simple. And I think for me, the chakras have helped simplify a lot of like everything into a way where we can understand it and see how it's connected to our perception and to the idea of channeling, which I think, again, so many people are fearful of channeling when they don't realize that they're already doing it naturally. It's a part of us being in this human body. It is just that vessel. And so it's so important to allow ourselves the opportunity to just be with the energy that we're channeling and be aware of it, most importantly. Some people are so
Mm.
fearful of channeling that they won't actually, they'd rather not be aware of what they're channeling instead of taking that full head on and giving that control back to what energy they're allowing in their vessel. A
Mm.
little bit of a rant, but yeah.
No, no, I get that as well because, you know, again, you're, I suppose with you as well, there's awareness as well with the chakras on where they're channeling. Where is this energy coming in? Because, I mean, I speak a lot like it's all coming from the heart, but I have experienced that I do feel that, along with the other chakras, there are other ways in which that this, transmission comes through.
Yes, I agree. Like the heart is connected to our hands and our shoulders and is just a wonderful way to expand the energy. But you could look at with each one, and I think like with the chakras, they all have their mantras associated with it or their seed sounds. So you
Mhm.
can have, the root is all lam, and that's incantating like the element of earth. And then when you think about the chakras themselves, or you think about light language itself, when we're channeling, we think about those words and the different vibrations or frequencies. And I think I shared a little bit about this. I had a Chakra 101 workshop this weekend about the colors. You have red, that's the lowest vibrating color on the visible color spectrum. And then you have it associated with the lowest sounding like syllable um, when we're thinking about sound. And these two are of course connected. Like that is our root. That has to be as low as it can go and really ground in. And red appears closest to us. That's a color that really stands out. We see stop signs, stop lights, so brakes, brake lights. These are all red for a reason.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful when you see, and for me, it's helped also interpreting light language when I'm watching somebody else's light language. I'll be able, if they're using their hands, I'll be able to understand or see the energy that they're opening and what they're doing with it. Like if you rotate your hand to the right, you're creating. If you rotate it to the left, you're destroying or you're allowing that energy. Righty tighty, lefty loosey.
Mm.
And so all of this like understanding for me of the chakras has really helped with my understanding of light language and just channeling in general. But yeah, definitely.
Ah, yeah, that's cool. So that's really helped to enhance that awareness and knowledge. Because, yeah, I wanted to ask that if there's anything that you found that has assisted and helped you in your awareness, in a deepening understanding. Because, of course, if people are opening up to it, how is that assisting them? How are they just gonna experience it without any understanding, or yeah, if there's a way that you discover that.
Yeah. So I do believe like children are, when they're born, they're connected, right? They speak in baby language. As a kid, I was convinced could understand baby language, and now I understand why I thought that. When you're born, you're still innately connected to source in such a way where the way that you communicate is just through your emotions, through what you understand as communication. And so we all have that ability. Now, does a baby understand what you're saying? Well, they learn. And I think that we're all kind of still babies. We unlearn a lot of it. And I think with that idea of the matrix programming us, we forget that there's still a language deep underneath of what we've learned that we can still tap into. And yeah, I like to use a baby analogy because
Mhm.
babies just, they know what's up, they can feel the vibes really strong. Have you ever seen a baby just look at you and you know that they're just looking at your energy and they're sensing that and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a
Yes.
few friends who've just had babies actually, and I'll be doing like light language singing with them, and they just laughter, excitement, and it's like they know whenever I go to see them, they're looking at me like, oh, there she is, and I sort of like do all my little singing with them, and they just love it. They try and sing along, and it's incredible. Yeah, they're in tune. They know they know what's up. They really do. And with that, like thinking about sharing a transmission with kids. I mean, I don't know if you feel called right now to share a transmission for the collective, for anybody here that's ready to listen.
Yes. Okay. The sound may sound different, but everything in divine timing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hmm. You may feel led to place your hand on your heart or throat. 그것이 안나라바보리 아다이나 그것이 떨리야 부터지 싱그리한테 더 디거들신 임그르타우 싱그리한바보. They're giving me the sign of a glowing heart dripping down to the sacral, dripping down to the root. 이 쇼른 너로 봐도 이까니야 시여 이 샤디야로 와라 너로 그것이 은르와. Ushaidiamo gatai san risiato torientaka usatai tangruto riash ash ino at ishiwa iku san dashi ash ino takatu shakt ash ule shaya ruhan ayamoan. Mm. Mm. You may feel the light just settling to your tailbone. Kuta indicatari indicato. And as you inhale, allow that light to just rise up your spine. Entering any parts of the body it feels led to. Amor annayo akasio alato amor ahan naham bukototia. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you again for having me and for just allowing this conversation to take place. It is such a blessing and I'm so thankful. Oh my goodness.
Thank you so much, Esther. It's been absolutely wonderful to hear you speaking and sharing, and something I think we were going to touch upon, and I didn't mention, but just now we were saying about our age and being young, and Esther, you don't mind me saying that you're 20 years old, and is that right?
Yeah, I'm 21.
21, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's incredible. You just listen to this beautiful conversation and the wisdom and the depth that is held within this beautiful young being, and yet the soul is so wise and is so held in this wise energy that comes forward and can assist and be of service at this beautiful age. And it's just something that we're breaking again, another paradigm that we need to be, having 20 plus years experience, which is nothing wrong if that's where you've gone on to do that, but actually we can do this at any age, at any point where you are open as a channel to experience a higher state of your own soul moving through you.
I agree. I think again of babies, I feel like we're going to a time where we're gonna be listening to a baby, like giving the most intense, beautiful, impactful light language transmission. Because yeah, like there is again, I love that you mentioned the breaking of the matrix, but really that soul. And I think for anyone who is older, maybe, who's 50 plus and just getting into light language for the first time, uh, everything is in divine timing, so it's just wonderful. And I feel like the souls that connect with light language, they look so young. I feel like it's that energy they carry and that life that they're literally tapping into, which assists them and supplies them with more life force energy to grow with. And I think that's just, it's beautiful. So I do believe there'll be a time where there'll be like a 3-year-old that is just immensely impactful for the energy body of the humanity at this time. And we are here to allow those that we're connecting with the opportunity to just understand that it's not about the time that you begin. I've been working with a lot of mothers, that have just gotten children.
And I think that's perfect time. You know, you grow up and you understand this form of communication. You can practice it with your child if you want, and also understand that your child is sharing this. I've also worked with parents with kids with special disabilities and other souls that may have special disabilities, which I believe is just a ability that is unique. Their senses are heightened in certain areas where we might not be able to perceive. And
Mhm.
so light language, again, I feel like unites us all, no matter where we are on the planet, what age we are, what our, situation may look like. So that's why it's just such a blessing to be able to connect and have this conversation on it.
Yeah, thank
Mm.
you. Thank you so much. Because, yeah, everyone's it's all here for everyone, no matter who you are, where you come from, what your background or your age or anything like that. We're all here together. This is like a unified um, language and a unified vibrational expression. Um, so, have you got any offerings that you'd just like to share with anybody, and where can we all find you? I'm going to leave the description down in here, so there'll be lots of info. But if you want to share any current offerings, that would be great.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much. So, me and my soul sister, Aria Young, we are hosting our Light Resonance Portal Cohort 2 coming up, and it's going to be really fun. It's like an 8-week long live kind of mentorship through light language. We've been working with a lot of souls which have immense gifts, but just don't understand the value of their gifts. And so, tapping into each chakra every week and seeing if we can work on those blockages as we move up. So that's coming out in March. And we also will have a free Light Language 101 workshop in February, so next month. So if anyone's interested about that, I will share the link. But yes, thank you so much again for just having
Mm,
me. I feel so
awesome.
honored and thankful to connect so deeply on these things. These are conversations, again, my soul just craves and is so thankful to have. So
Mm.
thank you so much, Georgie. You are amazing.
Thank you for coming here and being here and sharing your beautiful gifts and your story. Thank you, everybody who's listened. We're here every Friday, so tune in. If there's anything that's come up during this conversation, feel free to reach out to Esther or myself. And of course, do go and follow her Instagram and check out her website. Get on that free program
Light
on in
language
February.
worship.
Yeah, and workshop on February, and then going into the March one. That sounds incredible. Going through all the chakras. Awesome. See you all soon. Sending love. Bye.